Hello YouTube. Let me start by letting you know that my personal research into Antarctica mysteries, secrets and concealed history has been going on for decades, and my expertise is in the Russian developments there. I did discover much, and I reveal findings in my books as well as the videos in this channel, in this YouTube channel, and you can see them. You can look at the playlist, I put the link to it, in the description to this video. Today, I want to show you something else. There's a very interesting Russian newspaper, well-connected, very active, and quite surprising in the materials it presents. And they published an article about Antarctica secrets. The name of the newspaper is Совершенно секретно, top secret in English. I don't think they would publish some of the information you will find in my videos, like the battles that took place in the 1940s involving Soviet submarines, or the USO and UFO sightings by Soviet submarines and espionage missions. But still, there is a lot of interesting information in the article. Please understand who put it out. They have their own point of view on some of the things. Assess the information they reveal about the Americans, for example. This is your choice. But I think we need to know what other nations talk about or choose to reveal, and I'm not sure exact reason why, about Antarctica. So let's look at it. More than 200 years have passed since the Russian navigators Mikhail Lazarev and Fadei Bellingshausen discovered Antarctica. Today, however, all we still know about the distant white continent is that we don't know anything. Meanwhile, information about another interesting finding slips through open sources from time to time. So the other day, it became known that in the area of the Thwaites Glacier in the western part of Antarctica, the remains of some ancient city were discovered. However, so far no one has seen this city with their own eyes. However, the images obtained from space by American satellites allegedly clearly show the outlines of pyramids and some other structures resembling the ancient cities of Mesopotamia and Egypt. NASA officials have refrained from commenting, which further fuels the interest of researchers in the sixth continent. In the minds of most people, Antarctica is a huge icy desert where only penguins live and polar scientists from different countries work, replacing each other. In part, these ideas correspond to reality. Indeed, Antarctica is the cleanest, in every sense of the word, place on the planet. There are no harmful impurities in the air, and devices that register even small doses of radiation show absolute zero. There are no garbage dumps here, which have become an integral part of cities and towns. And all this is because littering on the continent is prohibited by international conventions and intergovernmental agreements. All waste products of polar explorers living on the Antarctic continent are carefully packed and transported by ships or airplanes. Moreover, orbital satellites are vigilantly monitoring compliance with these rules. Despite the severe frosts and winds, many animals and birds feel comfortable in Antarctica. Penguins loved the local latitudes more than others. It's a paradise for them, and not only because Antarctic waters are teeming with fish, but also because there is practically no main threat to all living things, humans. Penguins are quite friendly to the rare bipedal inhabitants of the continent. They willingly pose for photographs and even sometimes give themselves a pat. January-February is considered the most comfortable for humans time of the year in Antarctica. This is the height of summer when the air temperature is approaching zero. However, powerful winds are blowing, from which it is difficult to hide. But the coast is freed from snow under the influence of the wind. it is simply blown into the ocean. These days you can see what this mysterious continent really is like without protective ice and snow shell. And to make sure that Antarctica is very similar, for example, to Russian Kamchatka, the same harsh but fascinating with its monumental beauty. But is this mysterious continent as idyllic and serene as it is commonly thought? What are we looking for in a distant land? A few years ago, the Russian icebreaker Kapitan Khlebnikov was led to the shores of Antarctica by a caravan of 7 American ships. The Americans clearly wanted to hide something. Russian sailors recall that the icebreaker was not allowed close to the mainland. All the time, while unloading was underway, it stood in the roadstead far from the shore. However, through binoculars from the deck of the icebreaker, Russian sailors were able to see how a huge amount of military equipment and some incomprehensible containers were unloaded from American ships to the shore. They were accompanied by men in military uniforms. Immediately after unloading, the entire armada formed into marching columns and disappeared into the interior of the mainland. It is also known that around the same time, 2 Australian travelers set out to cross Antarctica on skis. However, nothing came of the brave young ladies. Suddenly, in the middle of the white, icy desert, an American Air Force airplane landed near the travelers. Several comrades, the authors of the article say snidely, in civilian clothes came out of the cockpit and urged the skiers to complete their journey and board the airplane. Obviously, on board, the girls were personally explained what problems those who do not know how to keep their mouth shut could arise. Therefore, upon returning to their homeland, the travelers never gave interviews to journalists, although they repeatedly asked them to do so. In January 2007, a whole landing force of high-ranking intelligence officers headed by the FSB, that's modern KGB, Director Nikolai Patrushev, and head of the Border Guard Service Vladimir Pronichev landed at the Russian Antarctic station Bellingshausen. The famous polar explorer Artur Chelingarov accompanied this group. What the officials responsible for Russia's security were doing on the other side of the globe has remained a sealed secret. Obviously, they didn't come to feed the penguins. The following year, in March, Antarctica was honored by Sergei Ivanov, then the first deputy prime minister of the Russian government. Sergei Ivanov visited the Russian scientific station Novolazarevskaya, met with polar explorers, and even flew over the eastern regions of the mainland. In January 2014, the then head of the Ministry of Natural Resources, Sergei Donskoy, flew to the Russian Vostok station, and 2 years later, Patriarch Kirill, the Archbishop of the Russian Orthodox Church, came to another station, Bellingshausen. The list of high-ranking Russian officials who have flown to Antarctica over the past 15 years can be continued. At the same time, it should be noted that traveling to Antarctica is not an easy task. To get to Novolazarevskaya, for example, you need to get to Cape Town, the southern tip of Africa, and then either sail by ship for several days, if you're lucky with the weather, or fly by airplane for 6 hours. Moreover, the airplanes flying to the icy continent are military transport aircraft, devoid of all amenities. These are not comfortable airliners of the government aviation squadron, but that's not all. The fuel reserve of the Il-76TD transport is designed for only 8 hours of flight, and there is nowhere for it to refuel. So if suddenly the weather on the Atlantic coast of Antarctica deteriorates dramatically, and this happens there regularly, and there is nowhere for the airplane to land, the situation may become almost critical. And nevertheless, our officials, say the authors, pampered by luxury, periodically undertake such not the most pleasant and moreover unsafe trips. Why would that be? Obviously, there are good reasons for it. Vostok, meaning east, is a delicate matter. Increased interest in the Antarctic continent was revealed after scientists began to closely study Lake Vostok, or rather, what is under its ice shell. The lake is located about 500 kilometers from the South Pole in the area of Queen Maud Land. Its area is more than 10,000 square kilometers and its depth is 1,200 meters. The thickness of the ice above it reaches 4.5 kilometers. As shown by data obtained from American orbiting satellites, there is a huge cavity 800 meters high between the water surface of the lake and the ice shell covering the Antarctic continent. The instruments registered high magnetic activity there. In addition, it turned out that the water temperature in some places reaches up to 18 degrees Celsius. Obviously, there are some geothermal springs in the depths of the lake. This means that you can live in a giant cavity between the water surface and the ice dome, and in quite comfortable conditions. However, the matter has not yet gone beyond assumptions and guesses what is hidden under the kilometer-thick Antarctic ice. As soon as American satellites detected high magnetic activity under Antarctica, all civilian projects to explore the mainland were immediately curtailed. It is known, for example, that back in February 2000, scientists from the United States and Great Britain intended to drill wells in the ice above Lake Vostok and lower special probes equipped with various sensors into the water. The implementation of this operation would allow us to answer many questions of interest to scientists. However, suddenly and without explanation, all work was stopped. Scientists were politely but persistently asked to leave the white continent and not to spread what they saw there. They say that now all scientific research on the continent is carried out under the watchful eye of the United States National Security Agency, one of the most powerful intelligence agencies in the world. Pure ice. Probably for the same reason other projects related to the development of the Antarctic continent were curtailed. One of them is the Clean Ice Project, which has been worked on in Russia and a number of other countries for many years. The essence of the project is as follows. Since the shortage of drinking water on the planet is becoming more acute every year, scientists in many countries have long been puzzling over how to use Arctic and Antarctic ice for the needs of mankind. An effective technology was proposed a quarter of a century ago by the Russian scientist Ivan Kalko. Under his leadership, a ship complex with a displacement of 1 million tons was developed for the extraction and transportation of Antarctic ice. The process itself looks like this. The vessel approaches the shores of Antarctica, where an iceberg suitable in size and other parameters is selected. After that, the cargo sections are separated from the vessel. They moor to an iceberg and, with the help of special equipment, vaguely resembling mining jackhammers, crush the ice block into small pieces and load them into the holds. After loading the sections, dock with the main vessel and head to their destination. Moreover, the iceberg can be towed entirely. Calculations carried out by specialists of the Central Research Institute named after academician Krylov show that an iceberg of medium size, 50 meters high and 100 meters wide, and weighing up to 2 million tons, can be safely towed by only one Russian icebreaker of the Arctic type. This is exactly what Russian specialists have demonstrated to the whole world. In June 1998, the icebreaker of the Murmansk shipping company towed a small Greenland iceberg to the Bay of Lisboa, where visitors to the World Exhibition Expo 98 could see it. Having conducted this experiment, the authors of the project hoped that it would serve as an impetus to the widespread introduction of this technology. Moreover, in the late 1990s in Russia, everything was ready for the start of a large-scale implementation of the Clean Ice project. However, the project did not receive any practical development, and it's not just the financial crisis and the lack of interest in Russian business in any project that do not promise immediate commercial benefits. Clean Ice was not interested in countries with much more powerful economic potential, although it is known that work on the study of Antarctic ice for their use for economic purposes has been carried out in the United States, Great Britain, Canada, and other countries since the 1960s. The reason is the same: the sudden secrecy of all works related to the study of the sixth continent, New Schwabia. Humanity has been vaguely guessing for a long time there is something under Antarctica. Suspicions intensified immediately after the Second World War, when secret Nazi documents fell into the hands of the Allies in the anti-Hitler coalition. It followed from them that in 1940, in Antarctica, on the personal instructions of the Führer, the construction of the two underground, or rather subglacial bases began. The goal is very pragmatic: to create reliable shelters in case of any force majeure, as well as landfills for the development of advanced technologies, in particular in the field of aircraft engineering. It is also known that since 1941, there has been a regular sea connection between Germany and Antarctica. It appears from secret documents that the Fritzes, that's how the Russians call Germans, used 38 submarines from the Führer convoy compound to communicate with Antarctica. These reliable submarines constantly plied between the German port of Kiel and Queen Maud Land in Antarctica. It is in this area of the mainland that the mysterious Lake Vostok is located. The last flight from Kiel to the South Pole took place in April 1945, when Soviet troops stormed Berlin. Moreover, according to some military historians, this time there were not only containers with various cargoes on board the submarines, but also several hundred people, obviously high-ranking Nazi officials, admitted to the highest secrets of the Reich. Perhaps the passengers of this flight became permanent residents of the German Antarctic colony called New Schwabia in Russian. It is quite possible that among them was the deputy Führer for the party, Martin Bormann, who mysteriously disappeared in the last days of the World War II. And here are the testimonies of the commander of the German submarine fleet, Admiral Dönitz. Once in a narrow circle of Nazi leaders, the admiral proudly declared, "My submarines have discovered a real earthly paradise." And he continued, "The German submarine fleet is proud to have created an impregnable fortress for the Führer on the other side of the world." There are good reasons to believe that these mysterious phrases refer to the sixth continent. It was there, as it appears from the secret documents of the Third Reich, that the Germans actively built something for several years. There was only one way to get into these secret bases: by maneuvering submarines along an extremely difficult fairway. The punctual Germans even drew up detailed maps of this unique fairway. It is known that each of the commanders of the 38 submarines involved in the project had such sailing directions. However, fearing for the safety of secrecy, the Germans produced 1,000 fake maps. Like many other fakes, for example, paper money from various countries, the fake maps were printed in one of the Nazi concentration camps. According to one hypothesis, it was Dachau. According to another, a special block of Sachsenhausen. Nearly all, naturally, the prisoners who worked in the concentration camp printing house were shot immediately after the work was completed. In the summer of 1945, several such maps fell into the hands of Soviet intelligence. It is impossible to determine their authenticity. Most likely, it is a fake. But even if the Soviet sailors had real maps at their disposal, it would be very problematic to use them. The fact is that for the purposes of conspiracy, all the information on these sites is marked in the form of special characters, which cannot be deciphered without knowing the key. Some historians claim that shortly after the war, the leadership of the Soviet Navy intended to send a flotilla of several submarines to the Atlantic coast of Antarctica to verify the authenticity of the information contained there. Whether such an expedition took place and what its results are, all this is covered with a dense veil of mystery. Where are the UFOs? For a long time, it was not accepted to talk seriously about the Nazi presence in Antarctica. It was believed that all this was from the realm of fiction. This continued until NASA's orbiting satellites detected high magnetic activity in the depths of the continent. Its source may well be man-made objects. That's when they remembered how Admirals Donitz's submarines had built an impregnable fortress for the Führer on the other side of the planet. Maybe the secret Nazi bases are just under the mysterious Lake Vostok. This hypothesis is supported by the fact that it was the Nazis who actively worked on the creation of, so to speak, unconventional aircraft in the 1940s. The Germans did not have time to destroy the drawings of these devices, and some of them fell into the hands of the Allies. Even a person far from aviation can easily find similarities with flying saucers, images of which have often appeared in the media lately. So it may very well be that it was under the thickness of the Antarctic ice that the Germans hid their secret factories for the production of UFOs. However, so far, all this is just speculation. The extremely scarce information that sometimes becomes public, alas, does not allow to reveal the numerous secrets of the icy desert. So this was the article. Listen to what I told you. I translated it for you. Compare it, of course, with my research and, all whatever is out there. But I stand behind my research, and you will know why after you see my videos if you have not done so. And I will bring you more interesting information and revelations from Russia and inform my audience. And if you like my research and you can support me, please do so through the links you'll find in the description to this channel. Thank you for your attention to my work. I ask that you please like my videos and tell others about my work.